Hi guys, it's Brent from Black Crow Gaming. I'm here this week to talk to you about my new army, Grey Knights. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Terrain Forge, Glasshammer Gaming, and Trident Futureworks. Okay, so to give you a heads up, I have played Space Marines exclusively this season for the last year, particularly Blood Angels. They're the only armies that I have taken to events, and I love playing Blood Angels. But as you might find or might have found, that in my team that I'm playing with this year, Murder She Wrote, we already have a really good Space Marine player. We have, one of the best Space Marine players out there, and I have been asked to try out new things. Now, Grey Knights, they seem like they're quite close to Space Marines. Uh, Spoiler, they're not. They play completely differently. But I've decided that this season I will be swapping to Grey Knights and try and see how I do with them as an army. I like to stay on one faction for a whole season, see how I do, and also I like it because I don't go to a lot of GTs. It means that I don't have to worry about models or the meta. I sort of have an army ready to go. So, how do you begin Grey Knights? Well, at the moment, I'm not going to lie to you, it's not a great time to start them. I was able to get some really good deals and some, other things like off the auction site, the multicolored auction site, and I decided that they're quite cheap to start because I got some good deals and because there's just not a lot of units in Grey Knights, so I wouldn't have to do a lot of painting. That's one of the reasons I've started them. Uh, the painting side of things, nice and easy and quite cheap. Is it a good time to start though? It's an old range. Next edition, they're probably hopefully going to get refreshed next edition. Otherwise, they'll have the last remaining firstborn. I think there's a few units left in the Space Marine Codex, but in general, most firstborn models have been ancients or legends by GW. And if you look at you're going to start buying some Grey Knights, that might be a factor. Also, the combat patrol. If you're looking to buy them in bulk, it's not great value because you get a named character, and as you know, it means you can't buy more than one. However, Crow is a character you definitely want, so it's worth getting one. Other issues I found with starting now is the codex has just dropped, so that's one of the contributing factors to me starting to play them. However, a lot of people are playing the Grotmus detachment, the one that was released last Christmas, because none of the detachments have great synergy and they're not particularly powerful. So have that in mind before you start to play them. They're not like an S tier army right now. I've struggled into some matchups. They're very specialised. They're a combat army whose army rule doesn't help them get into combat. Is what it is. But why do we play them then? Why do we want to play them? Because they're cool. They're cool as anything. They're Terminators. They're Grey Knights. They're there to put down psychers. And I like that. That's one of the reasons I play Warhammer. I love the lore. I managed to get some books off one of our other contributors, Aaron. He gave me some of the Grey Knight books, and they're awesome. So the Grey Knight trilogy, if you get to read it, very good books. I'm listening to it as well on audiobook because I don't have a lot of time, and driving to work is the big one for me. So also, I've played Space Marines, as I said, for a long time now, and they are very vanilla. Even Blood Angels, like everyone knows how to play them, and I know how to play. They are good for beginners. With Grey Knights, even though they look very similar, they have completely different army compositions and how they play. And I'm looking to, change things up this season, see how I can do. They were good, and because they're so specialised, they're a really good team army. There's some matchups they're unbeatable in, and some that they are unwinnable in. So it'll be a challenge for me. The best way to start, where to start? So I had the Grey Knight half of Hexbane, which was Castellan Crow, 10 Marines, and one of the old Nemesis Dread Knights. And I got that for about £30. I got a really good deal on it. And I was like, well, I've got this. And then the Sanctic Spearhead came out, Sanctic Conclave, sorry. and that seemed like really good value. It included the new Nemesis Dread Knight Grandmaster kit, and plenty of Marines and plenty of Terminators. And for those that know me, I love Terminators. I recently took 10 Assault Terminators to an RTT with lightning claws. I know, in Blood Angels. Putting out there, very different. So if you're looking to start, there's still some in stock at the time of me recording. And because it's not the most popular, they might be in stock for quite a while. I think GW have taken it down, but a lot of independent stockists that order one, you can have a look around. The Combat Patrol, as I said earlier, you can get one of them is perfect because all your lists will have 10 Purifiers and Crowin. The 5 Terminators and the Dreadnought, it's up in the air. One nice thing to note though is the Dreadnought is also a character. So there you go, putting it out there. So the other two best places that I personally get models is the auction site, as you can see, the little multicolored auction site, but also, more importantly, Glasshammer Gaming. Code BlackRow for additional 5% off. This is where I got my Sanctic Conclave. So you've got your army. How do you want to play them? So the big thing for Grey Knights is every single model, every single Grey Knight has a Nemesis Force weapon. What this is, Strength 6, AP2, 2 damage. It's a power weapon, but it's a good power weapon. For example, if you're playing Blood Angels and you're playing tons of JPIs, they have to charge to get to Strength 6. Strength 6 is a really nice break point. It's AP2, 2 damage. You can generally kill other Marines quite well. Also, one thing I didn't realise is having a 2-up armor save. It's quite good. It feels like every single one of my detachment always has armor of contempt on them, but obviously. But because of that, they survive a little bit longer than people who play Space Marines regularly expect them to. So they'll be like, oh yeah, I can kill 5 Space Marines, and then you save a bunch of 4-ups because you've got cover and you've got a 2-up armor save as standard, and your guys can suddenly punch back. So they're okay. So bear in mind, combat army survivability is good because it means that you'll get to fight in your turn. The thing that's most important is rapid ingress. And I've repeated it, rapid ingress, rapid ingress, rapid ingress. Dread Knights, or Nemesis Dread Knights, aren't that fast. They're movement 8. So unless you've got advance and charge, which you do on the normal ones, even then, like movement 14, because they've got a really long night base, they're difficult to move around and position. Rapid ingressing them is a really good way of getting them into combat reliably. And yeah, but basically, they're a combat army. There are some detachments like Brotherhood where you can be more shooting, and that's one I've been playing mostly on TTS and with my very grey Knights at the moment, unpainted. Warpbane. So this is the Grotdamus detachment from last year. The rules are free on the GW app. This is a big boost if you just want to taste Grey Knights or look at the rules. It's just got a good detachment rule. You reroll all hit rolls if you're in your sanctified area or near purifiers. This is slightly better than other detachments in the same rule. So for example, Canoptic Court has a rule like this for Necrons, and I think there's a very similar one for Thousand Suns as well, where they get reroll hits if they're in certain areas. This is better because you also get reroll hits when you're close to purifiers. Purifiers are excellent anyway because they reroll damage rolls if your opponent's on the objective. And as I said, they're good in combat. Strength 6, AP2, 2 damage. Warpbane, it has the stratagems to get you into combat easily, and it's the only detachment which significantly buffs Grey Knight's damage output. All the others are very mediocre when it comes to buffing the Grey Knights themselves. I found with other detachments such as Banishers, Brotherhood, you're looking for certain tricky plays, such as your uppy downy strats, your Mists of Deimos like strats. Warpbane is just a really good damage buff. It's good for everything. Like, you can drop some Grand Nemesis Grandmasters down, rerolls to hit. Fantastic, they love it. Brotherhood. This is the detachment I've been playing, and it's the detachment I've been playing because I love Terminators. And what I find is if I can get a big blob of paladins in combat with a unit that doesn't want to be in combat with them, they can't be killed. Your opponent can't shoot them because if they fall back, you'll just mists up and away, and they can't beat them in combat. Or if they can, generally I try and tag units on the center objective, and then your opponent has a decision like, because you've got all this OC on an objective, they can't kill you, and because you've got the OC, you can hold the objective. And if they do decide, well, I'll fall back, I'm not going to play that game, you mist away, you rapid ingress somewhere, and you repeat the cycle of just trying to hold or disrupt an objective and kill enemy units. And I think Brotherhood does this better than Banishers with their Mist of Deimos-like strat. But I prefer the other strats in Brotherhood. The detachment rule for Brotherhood is very poor in that it only really helps shooting units. And as you probably know, Psy cannons aren't cutting it at the moment. So, and if you compare the damage output of combat or shooting on a Grandmaster and DK, you want to be in combat. You want to be using their unit rule in combat and hitting tanks and monsters. Brotherhood's reroll when hits and wounds 1 when you come in from deep strike. If you're rapid ingressing to try and get into combat, you don't get that, and you don't want to be relying on 9-inch charges. Sanctic Spearhead. I have played this on TTS, but I don't have the models to play it in real life. So in TTS, you can basically have whatever on. It's a fuzzy way you go in place. It's nice because it gives you different builds. If you're just starting Grey Knights, you're probably not going to own 6 Nemesis Dread Knights. You might not even have a Storm Raven, which is a unit which is almost certainly going to go into Legends next edition. And because of that, I haven't been playing it because it's not an army I'll be able to take to teams anytime soon. However, it's cool. It looks cool. Advancing 6, being able to go through walls is always nice. I've seen people play Storm Ravens in this detachment, which is interesting. Yeah, I think Sanctic Spearhead has play if you have those models. Goals for next season. So I've currently got about 30 or 40 Grey Knight infantry, which you can build however you like. I've got 15 interceptors, 10, 15 purifiers, and I've got some more which I can build. I've got 10 paladins. I've got tons of librarians, thanks to the starter box this edition. And yes, they are the same model, same size. Perfect. Good job, Leviathan. And I've got two Grandmaster Nemesis Dread Knights because I was able to convert them after I got the new. I used 2 melting guns off of the Gladiator tank, which is for the Gladiator Lancer. No, not the Lancer, the other one. I used the melter guns off that, and it works perfectly to convert a silencer or a heavy silent Gatling silencer into the new melter gun, which the Nemesis Dread Knights get. Can't remember the name of it. I know it's a melter gun, Melter 4. It's very good. So my goal is to get these guys built and painted. Well, they're mostly built, sorry. And the goal is to get them painted. They're very grey Knights at the moment because they're plastic. Then I want to start taking them to a couple of RTTs. I'm going to be using these guys wholly for next season. I generally go to about 3 or 4 GTs a year, and then probably about 4 or 5 RTTs, especially if they're close. If I can use these the whole season, that makes me happy. It means I can sort of see how I'm doing in the standings. And from a purely selfish point of view, I quite like that. It's a little bit of a selfishness or narcissism that I like to see my name in the rankings and how well I'm doing. So with that in mind, the biggest thing is I want to have fun. These guys play completely different. Uppy Downeying is a new dimension of board I haven't really had before outside of Scouts. Scouts, slightly different if you're playing them in Blood Angels. And hopefully I don't let my team down. If you have just started Grey Knights, or you're a player that has been playing them for years and you want to know how they're going to do, I'm going to be doing battle report, or not battle reports, tournament reports, and giving my hints, advice, everything that I found out about them so far in the coming couple of weeks and months. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.